just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to Voices right here on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host for today's edition, Devon Cornelius. It is indeed a pleasure to be here yet again for another edition of Voices only on WinFM 98.9. It is Friday, April 22nd, 2022. I'm giving thanks for life. So many went to bed last night and they did not make it to this morning, but I am here. I'm really happy to be here and happy to be on this program to hear from you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, the good listeners of 1FM 98.9 for Voices. This is your program and we want to hear from you, voicing your opinion on matters of national interest, matters pertaining to St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, good morning to those of you who are listening in the diaspora. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, we are live on Facebook at Win Media SKN. You can also check us out on YouTube and our other social media handles. Of course, for those of you who want to participate in today's edition of Voices, you can call us at 466-0989 or 762-0989 when I open the phone lines. For those of you who did not know, today is actually Earth Day, and Earth Day is celebrated annually on April 22nd as a reminder to protect our environments and restore damaged ecosystems. And they are encouraging people to wear green today in recognition of Earth Day. You would recall that right here on NFM on Island T, we had some representatives from the Department of Environment that spoke to Earth Day. So for those of you who are viewing online, you would realize that I have on my green today in respect of Earth Day. Now, I want to get into the meat of the matter. I want to get into the conversation with you, the good listeners of WinFM 98.9. And I want to have this discussion, and I want to hear from you. Of course, the phone lines will be opened later on at 466-0989 and 762-0989. Now, there is a political mess that the country has found itself in with regards to the Team Unity Coalition. A lot has been happening over the past few days, weeks, and months. A lot has been said by the partners in Team Unity, and this is something that we are following. This is something that is being followed regionally and internationally. Many people are looking on, and they are trying to make sense of what is happening in St. Kitts and Nevis in our politics. And so I want to entertain that discussion with you. Now, I have here with me some of the... First, let me say, I'm going to try to provide a better or some information to you, the listeners, so that, and I hope that this can provide some more context. And for those of you who may not be aware, I hope that this can guide you in terms of getting a better understanding of what it is that is happening in our politics. Now, over the past few days and weeks, you heard that the leaders of PAM and CCM wrote to the Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, with regards to some disagreements that they had in Team Unity. And we heard that some demands were made in terms of, recommendations as to what they feel will be able to mend the situation and, bring all of this fire, cool all of this, and basically save Team Unity. And so a letter was a joint letter by the Honorable Sean K. Richards as Deputy Prime Minister and leader of the People's Action Movement, and the Honorable Mark Brantley, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and Premier of Nevis, and the leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement. They sent a joint letter to the Prime Minister and the leader of the People's Labour Party concerning those demands. Now, the letters I also have here with me, the letter from the Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, with his response to the demands, what was in the letter that he received from his Team Unity colleagues. Now, the letters are quite lengthy, so I really cannot read word for word what is in the letter, but I'm going to try my best to give a synopsis and not brief, because I want you guys to get a better understanding if you don't have already, but I want you guys to get a full understanding of what is really transpiring. So this letter is dated 16th April 2022 from Deputy Prime Minister Richards and Premier Brantley to the Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris. It says, in recent months, our beloved country has witnessed unprecedented political challenges that could have been avoided were it not for your departure from the core principles and promises that were established for the coalition government comprised of the People's Action Movement, Concerned Citizens Movement, and the People's Labour Party. It says that you will recall that when we agreed as political parties to form the alliance now known as Team Unity, we did so with a solemn and binding understanding that guided the mutual promises, agreements, and commitments. Simply put, we did so in the spirit of trust. The ultimate mission of our union was to deliver social and economic programs that would adhere to a promise of prosperity for all. The architecture of our political design was also birthed in a foundation of good governance. It says our strategy was then to erase scourges of victimization, discrimination, lack of government transparency, mismanagement of the economy, and corrupt practices. It was also our hope to end the poisoning of the rich traditions of democracy on which our country was founded. It is therefore an unfortunate reality that St. Kitts and Nevis today finds itself on a path which is the very antithesis of the spirit and intent of team unity. Your governance as Prime Minister has boldly incorporated a systematic program designed to undermine your cabinet colleagues, therefore in the operations of their portfolios, and oversee the inequitable distribution of government resources, mainly through the Office of the Prime Minister, Ministry of Finance, and Ministry of Sustainable Development. This is what is in the letter from the leaders of PAM and CCM. It goes on to say, when we allied, we agreed that PAM would not field candidates in the constituencies that we agreed to have your candidates contest, which is constituencies number 3 and 7. In the 2020 election, PAM gave way to allowing one of your candidates to vie for the seat in constituency number 6. It says, unfortunately, despite these accommodations, your party has been engaged for several years, but heightened since the last election of 2020 in activities to undermine the PAM and CCM candidates in their constituencies. This is what they are claiming. Over the years, many of these issues and concerns were raised at various levels, including the cabinet, and during more private discussions. In the past, we have pursued our concerns using quiet diplomacy and keeping our disagreements private and confidential within the corridors of the government. But instead of a resolution, the situation has worsened. Recognizing the worsening circumstances, we, the political leaders of PAM and CCM, took a patriotic stand and wrote to you on Monday, 28th March 2022, seeking urgent dialogue. It goes on to say that you were unable to accommodate a meeting notwithstanding the urgency until 9 days later on Wednesday, April 6, 2022. During that meeting, we outlined the critical issues and recommend the best way forward. However, you did not offer much, either in terms of responses or commitments to introduce any of the changes suggested to improve the failing relationship. However, we, the undersigned, decided to be patient and measured in our approach. As a consequence, we offered you a 1-week period to consider the proposals and to return on Thursday, 14th April, to provide a response and for us to take definitive actions. It says, as it stands today, some 2 weeks after our first meeting to urgently address these critical matters of state, we still have no resolution and our country remains uneasy. There remains no semblance of clarity about the way forward due to your tactics that some citizens describe as methods of strategic delay. We do not feel, however, that this is a time for such mechanisms. The gulf between what is required to save the partnership and your personal preferences remains large and troubling. It says we, that is the Honorable Sean Richards and Honorable Mark Brantley, have been most reasonable and patient, but the citizens of this great nation of ours are impatient with the lack of results fueled by your lack of urgency to resolve this issue. Therefore, in the interest of stability of this country and the best interest of the preservation of good governance, they gave him, it says, we will accord you until Wednesday, 28th April to respond definitively to the issues. Now, I'm going to outline the issues that have been penned in this letter from the Honorable Sean K. Richards and the Honorable Mark Brantley. 1. That there be an urgent return to the good governance agenda that includes term limits, electoral reform, activation of the integrity in life legislation, freedom of information, freedom of the press, as well as legislation that governs the awarding of government contracts. 2. To avoid the continued misuse and inequitable distribution of government resources, the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Sustainable Development should be immediately reassigned. 3. Comprehensive overview of the true financial picture of the government with monthly reports by the Financial Secretary to the Cabinet. 4. Review and streamline the process for budget estimates to ensure that Cabinet members and ministers are aware of the final figures to be considered for the annual budget. Ministers are mostly unaware of the final figures to be allocated to their ministries and only become aware when the estimates are already finalized for debate in Parliament. The management of the CBI program should be restructured and be administered through the Ministry of Finance, with quarterly reports of revenue earned, the number of applications, and the number of persons granted citizenship. 6. There needs to be a clear policy that determines how social assistance is to be distributed to residents and citizens. 7. The STEP program should be managed and operated from within the Ministry of Labour with the appropriate budget allocations. 8. The PAP program, which is budgeted under the Ministry of Social Development, should be managed and operated from within the Ministry of Social Development and not the Ministry of Sustainable Development. This program cannot continue to be operated by the Ministry of Sustainable Development when it is budgeted under the Ministry of Social Development. 9. All members of Parliament should have equal access to resources, land, houses, PAP, STEP to assist constituents. 10. The Cabinet should be allowed to convene in the absence of the Prime Minister, with the Deputy acting as Chairman or an assigned Minister when both are absent. 11. All fake social media platforms that have been used to attack members of PAM and CCM and those designed to attack PLP and other parties should be immediately and permanently deleted. Failure to do so should and would have serious implications for any settled agreement. 12. It is our view that it is inappropriate for anyone representing the country as an ambassador to be hosting or engaged in a radio or other media program to attack members of the government that he or she serves, the opposition, or the citizens of the country that they represent. It would have been more beneficial to the country if such programs were used to educate and sensitize the citizens about the diplomatic achievements of St. Kitts and Nevis and how we are affected by world affairs. 13. Therefore, any such ambassadors, including our current ambassador to the United Nations, should be immediately recalled, and all such attacks should be immediately ended. 14. Cease attempts by the PLP to establish footholds in constituencies other than numbers 3, 6, and 7 to bring an end to activities and support agents working against the PAM and CCM. 15. In the spirit of the good governance agenda and the recent parliamentary efforts of the Team Unity government to introduce term limits legislation in the National Assembly, and in the spirit of your own recent public commitments at a church service not to seek a third term, that you make an unequivocal public statement not to seek a third term as Prime Minister. 16. Also, to keep in the spirit of the Team Unity government, you make an unequivocal statement that the People's Labour Party, PLP, will not run candidates in any constituency where PAM and the CCM are fielding candidates. That is, constituencies 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Nor would PLP support candidates, individuals, or parties contesting against PAM and CCM. PAM and CCM commit to the same not to run candidates in 3, 6, and 7, and not to support any candidate, individuals, or parties contesting against PLP. Urgent accounting of CBI proceeds from the period of the SIDF until present day, and to allocate and pay to Nevis its agreed pro rata population share of the net proceeds of CBI, minus sums already paid to Nevis. 18. If the above is agreed to, and in the spirit of political fairness, we, the undersigned, would be willing to allow the continuation of your leadership until December 31st, 2023, with the further understanding that you would keep the commitment to facilitating a smooth transition to a new leader of the coalition thereafter. We offer this compromise in good faith and in the best interest of the continuity and stability and fairness in the process of delivering prosperity for all. Respectfully, Sean K. Richards, political leader, Pam Mark Brantley, political leader, CCM, with their signatures attached. We'll take the short break, and when we come back, we will continue Voices right here on WinFM 98.9. Stick and stay. We will be right back.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Buying your medication is easy with City Drug Store's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drug Store's curbside pickup service.
Delicious, lightly salted, tasty, and oh so fresh.
Delicious, multigrain, crispy, full of flavor, and so guilt-free.
Licious, buttery blend, golden brown, melts in your mouth, and of course, you just want more.
Things that make you go, Licious, the new snack cracker from Wabisco. Buttery blend, multigrain, or lightly salted. Ready to snack straight from the pack. Try them today.
Enjoy an elevated experience with your Flow Home Internet and mobile combined.
Giving you the best rate for great savings.
With 120 gigs of double data for anything.
And unlimited talk.
On 4 mobile lines.
Simply combine your Flow Home Internet and mobile for the best rate and value. Unlock double data and unlimited talk on 4 mobile lines to go with home internet speeds up to 35 megabits per second. Visit a Flow store to sign up today. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to Voices here on WinFM 98.9. Thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of Voices. It is Friday, April 22nd, 2022, and I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. It's a beautiful day, and I'm giving thanks. For those of you who have just joined us today, I am sharing with you letters that Sean Richards and Mark Brantley sent to Timothy Harris. And I'm now going to read to you the response from the Prime Minister. These letters are their signatures are affixed to these letters. So I'm going to share with you the response from the Prime Minister. It says, I acknowledge receipt of your joint letter dated, or to me, dated 16 April 2022, following our recently concluded meetings at the Cabinet Room, Government Headquarters on the 6th and 14th April. These meetings were arranged to resolve what you both seem to indicate are deep-seated differences that have somehow emerged in January and February of this year and have been accorded by you an unprecedented sense of urgency. In your letter, you state that you, quote, will accord me until Wednesday, 20th April 2022 to respond definitively to the issues that we have raised in our meetings and others which you have now added listed below. It says, I am puzzled that these deep-seated differences are now being put forward following the December 2021 annual debate on the Appropriations Bill 2022, the budget debate, in which all members of the government benches spoke in glowing terms of the outstanding performance of our Team Unity administration during 2021 and the plans and programs that our government put forward for this year and beyond. All our members voted without reservation for this critical piece of legislation. I must say that I am deeply saddened that your latest demand comes at a most unfortunate time when we mourn the passing of our colleague and friend, His Excellency Vance Amory, former senior minister in the government, and who was a founding member of Team Unity and former political leader for some 30 years of the Concerned Citizens Movement, the political party which Minister Brantley now has the honor to lead. Ambassador Amory was also a founding father of Team Unity, and his wise counsel and sterling leadership are sorely needed at this particular time. You both would be aware that the Cabinet Secretary heads the committee set up to make arrangements to honor the life of Ambassador Amory, and the committee includes members of the NIA. The Cabinet would have been on hand earlier today, or was on hand earlier today, that was the 20th, to receive the mortal remains of Ambassador Amory at RLB International Airport. You should already be aware that the remains will lie in state in both islands, so I think you guys are well aware of that. So let me cut into the other part of the letter. It says that your letter dated April 16, 2022 is in very poor taste. It is disrespectful, filled with contradictions, untruths, bad faith, and is a naked lack of understanding of the very system of governance in which you have actively participated in the last 7 years. Your reference to fundamental documents conveniently ignores that the most critical document guiding the rule of law, good governance, and government operations is the Constitution of the Federation of St. Christopher and Nevis. The Constitution is the supreme law of St. Christopher and Nevis, and if any other law is inconsistent with the Constitution shall prevail, and the other law shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. None of us in St. Kitts and Nevis is above the law, and I expect that both of you accept the supremacy of the Constitution as the guiding light of our democracy. It comes on to say that certain positions advanced by your good selves regarding matters of recent vintage, however, strain the bonds of credulity. Take, for example, the matter of trust. You, Minister of Foreign Affairs in the contrary, undermine the trust you asked the public to place in the Team Unity government when you launched a power grab coup to dislodge me as the constitutionally appointed Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, after having pledged throughout 2020 in the campaign how excellent has been my service as Prime Minister, how Nevis has had its best relationship with St. Kitts under my leadership, and how much you supported my leadership. This is what the Prime Minister is claiming. You both seem not to understand that the appointment of the office of the minister and the allocation of portfolios assigning responsibility for any business of the government are made under the Constitution by His Excellency the Governor General, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister. I do not intend to address in this letter the absurd prevarications which you have cobbled together in your pages 2 and 3. How can anybody take seriously your statement that you are writing as the political leaders of PAM and CCM when everybody knows that after our meeting of 14th April 2022, one of you actually went on the radio and admitted publicly that he has to get instructions from his caucus, thereby being understood to mean that your so-called proposals were made without the proper authority to the people you claim to speak for. I am left to wonder whether you have received the instructions you say you needed before you wrote this letter. What is worse, how can two of you support to speak for the cabinet when one of the two of you has stated on the record that he is not coming back to the cabinet until the occurrence of an eventuality which I consider illegal? I wonder if Minister Brantley agrees that the Commissioner of Police should tamper with the police statement. As per unfounded allegations of inequitable distribution of resources, you seem to forget that allocation of resources is determined through the budgetary process, including the Cabinet Estimates Committee meeting of which you are a part of. Those very allocations have been supported by you in every debate. I want to go into the response to the demand, and then I'll just open the phone lines to hear from you, the listeners. It says, what is this obsession with social media when you, Brantley, preside over a weekly radio show? You must appreciate that in a democracy, social media provides a means for popular participation of citizens and residents. Regrettably, it is oftentimes used irresponsibly by persons, including you. I reject the request that I become involved in policing social media and fake profiles. You both seem to be confused and frightened over the vibrancy of the People's Labour Party. For the record, we are and have been a vibrant, people-centered national party with formal structures in all constituencies in St. Kitts. These structures facilitated the victory of Team Unity of 2015 and again in 2020. Where the People's Action Movement was weak, PLP, working with them, made them strong. Hence the revival of PAM after 20 years in the wilderness. Your reference to undermining the CCM is a figment of your imagination and requires no response except a denial. There has never been any agreement by my party to restrict itself to only 2 constituencies. Many people will remember that you, Minister Richards, publicly endorsed and encouraged the build-out of the People's Labour Party in the speech that you delivered, streamed live at the second convention of the People's Labour Party in 2018. In case you have forgotten, this is part of what you said. It says, quote, PLP family, good afternoon. Of course, I recognize the protocols. This afternoon, I bring greetings on behalf of PAM. And it goes on to say that this afternoon, we're here witnessing the second annual convention of the PLP that says to me that PLP is growing, and for that, we must congratulate the PLP. Now, let me head into the demands. This is a very lengthy letter. I don't want to take up too much of the time trying to explain all of it to you, but let me get into the response. Now, response 1. The question was, or the statement from PAM and CCM was, that there be an urgent return to the good governance agenda that includes term limits, electoral reform, activation of the integrity in public legislation, freedom of information, freedom of press, etc. The Prime Minister said, I am amazed that Deputy Prime Minister Richards should record good governance as the first issue for me to respond to. Minister Richards has been absent from the cabinet for some 10 weeks since February 14. Minister Brantley would recall that he left the cabinet unceremoniously, saying that he would not return until his name was removed from a police witness statement. I reiterate that I will not be party to any activity which I consider to be illegal. Neither the cabinet, the Prime Minister, nor Minister of National Security can cause a police statement to be altered. On term limits, a bill, Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis, a tenure of Office of Prime Minister Amendment Bill 2019, was tabled in the Parliament to establish the limits of the tenure of the Prime Minister, as was campaigned by the Team Unity movement. It was an amendment to the Constitution and required a two-thirds majority of members to gain passage. It was debated in Parliament on 29 November 2019, and the Labour opposition at the time voted against this bill, and it failed to pass as Team Unity did not have a two-thirds majority on the government benches. On February 4, 2022, the Cabinet gave approval for the same bill to go back to Parliament. Have you forgotten this? Electoral reform. For many people, electoral reform principally means a residency requirement for voting in an election. A bill along those lines was drafted and was placed on the order paper of the Parliament, but was withdrawn. We are still awaiting further input from the CCM on this matter. The Integrity in Public Life. The Integrity in Public Life Commission, headed by Justice Pauletta Lance, has been actively pursuing the arrangements for the full implementation of the legislation. The Commission has been working closely with the AG, Chambers, to craft a number of regulations and recommended amendments to the Act. Freedom of information has seen significant strides being made for its full implementation. There is need for amendment to the legislation, but it has not impeded the wide access to and dissemination of information across government. 2. To avoid the continued misuse and inequitable distribution of government resources, the Ministry of Finance, Sustainable Development. Prime Minister said, I reject the notion that there has been the misuse and inequitable distribution of government resources. You have failed to provide any evidence of such practices. The process which allocates the use of government resources is the budgetary process, which begins in the first half of every year. It is a process which involves meetings of permanent secretaries, which are the accounting officers of each ministry. They meet with the budget analysts of the Ministry of Finance, with the PSIP team managed by the Ministry of Sustainable Development. The team is one in which the technical people of your ministry and every other ministry put their case to the team. The Cabinet meets late in the year in the Estimates Committee, and the team from each ministry comes to this meeting to be questioned by the Cabinet members. All of us are aware of the matters discussed. How is this a misuse of an open government process that each of you has been part of for the past 7 years? Our country will continue on the path of excellent fiscal management, growth, and socio-economic development. Comprehensive overview of the true financial picture of the government with monthly reports by the Finance Secretary. We should be all proud that the federal government, of which we are a part of, has consistently returned surpluses each fiscal year. We have received commendations from reputable international organizations such as the IMF and the World Bank. We have also received each year an unqualified report from the Director of Audit, who is a certified forensic accountant. By law, the Director of Audit is an independent professional who functions as a watchdog over the country's finances. I'm saddened that even after 7 years, both of you appear to be unaware of the workings of government and the annual budgetary process, which begins around June each year with pre-estimates meetings, which are followed on by the estimates meetings of the Cabinet, which take place in October, early November. Every consciousness cabinet member knows that these meetings are then followed by post estimates, negotiations between the Ministry of Finance and individual ministries prior to the finalization of the budget. As recently as February 2022, the Financial Secretary came to Cabinet and made a presentation regarding the financial systems of the government. Recall also that the Financial Secretary mentioned that a weakness observed appears to be the lack of interface between ministers and permanent secretaries in determining the ministry's priorities among themselves. Now, this is some of what the Prime Minister responded to. I must say that it is a lengthy document, but a lot of his response very, very interesting, and I want to share this with you. But I'll open the phone lines now to take some calls from you, the listeners of 1FM 98.9, to give your take on what you have heard so far. But of course, we will continue this in the second hour right here on 1FM 98.9 for another edition of Voices. Call us at 466-0989 or 762-0989. Now, there is also the debate going on about the Office of the Prime Minister and whether the Governor General has sufficient grounds to ask the Prime Minister to step down. Now, many people have been referring to what the Constitution says, and they're not suggesting, but they're saying that, well, we should be guided by the Constitution, and the Constitution does not give the Governor General sufficient grounds or sufficient powers to remove a sitting Prime Minister unless there is a vacancy. And the only how a vacancy can come is if there is an election, if the Prime Minister himself, in his own wisdom, decides to tender his resignation, or if there is an election. Basically, most of the debate that we've seen or heard on social media and by a number of, I would say, political pundits, people who have been following politics here in the country and regionally, is that there should be a motion of no confidence, considering that PAM and CCM already have the majority of support in the Parliament. If it is that they no longer support the Prime Minister or support him, Dr. Harris, that is, to continue as Prime Minister, the constitutional advice here is to file a motion of no confidence. Because based on this, the Governor General cannot just get up and ask the Prime Minister to step down. Now, Section 52, subsection 2, says whenever the Governor General has occasion to appoint a Prime Minister, he or she shall appoint a representative who appears to him or her likely to command the support of the majority of the representatives. We have sought legal advice, and based on that advice, the occasion is referring to whether there is the Prime Minister, in his own wisdom, resigns, an election, or a motion of no confidence, where the GG would say, okay, there's a motion of no confidence against you. This has been tabled and passed, in the National Assembly. Therefore, you would have to resign within 3 days or dissolve the House. It says the Governor General shall remove, this is subsection 6 of Section 52. It says the Governor General shall remove the Prime Minister from office if a resolution of no confidence in the government is passed by the National Assembly and the Prime Minister does not within 3 days either resign from his or her office or advise the Governor General to dissolve Parliament. This is what the Constitution is saying. And based on strong public opinion, many people are leaning towards a motion of no confidence. If it is that PAM, and which they have said, Premier Brantley said it yesterday, and Sean Richards, the Deputy Prime Minister, said it yesterday as well, that they do not support Dr. Timothy Harris to continue as the country's Prime Minister. If that is the case, according to the Constitution, a motion of no confidence should be the answer to all of this. That is the democratic process that would, ensure that every member is able to say, well, this is why we don't support the Prime Minister, X, Y, and Z, etc., etc., etc. Of course, this would force the country into general elections. Now, some are of the view that there should be a change in prime ministership without there being an election, or perhaps a change in government without being an election. But in this case, change in prime ministership. While others disagree. Others are saying, no, let the people go back to the polls, and whether they're going to support this party or that party to continue or to get in and run the affairs of the country. I want to hear from you. What do you support? Do you support a motion of no confidence? Because as it is now, it is perhaps safe to say that the Prime Minister may not just in his own wisdom tender his resignation. And so, based on what we've seen and heard, it appears as if St. Kitts and Nevis will go into a general election. That is what, from all indicators, we can safely say that is what is going to happen. We're going to head into a general election based on, PAM not supporting the Prime Minister. Now, there's some comments on the live stream. It says, I don't see anything wrong with the letters. Clearly is asking the PM to keep promises and was made as a coalition and to the people of the country. Okay, there's some other comments here. Okay, yes, so that's a comment from someone on the live. PAM and CCM is basically asking the Prime Minister to adhere to some of the promises that were made prior to assuming office in 2015. But the Prime Minister is giving a response to say that was not the case and saying that it is something else different. But I'm going to share with you later on, more of what is listed here in the Prime Minister's response, which I've said is very, very interesting. And, of course, many people, are looking on and trying to get a full and better understanding of what is really happening. But what we're seeing is that it appears as if some are suggesting that there should be a change in prime ministership without having a motion of no confidence. And based on the legal advice that we have sought, that is unconstitutional. And the best way to go is a motion of no confidence. Let's say the Constitution did not provide for a motion of no confidence. Then perhaps this argument would have had some sort of grounds to it. But the Constitution clearly states that if you no longer support the Prime Minister, you file a motion, tabled in the National Assembly, passed, and we know what happens next. This is what most legal minds are saying should happen. Because there is no doubt, and there shouldn't be any doubt in our minds, that if a motion of no confidence is tabled, that it would not be successful. Because you already have 6 of the members on the government side stating quite clearly that they no longer support Dr. Timothy Harris as Prime Minister. And one can only assume that the members of the opposition would support the motion of no confidence. So it is perhaps safe to say that if a motion of no confidence is tabled in our National Assembly, then more than likely it would be successful. Of course, with that being said, not just by me, but by many other people, a motion of no confidence is the constitutional or correct thing to do. We are about 5 minutes before we break at 12 for the headline news. Stick and stay with us, and we'll come right back to continue Voices here on WinFM 98.9 to provide some more information as it relates to the political mess that Team Unity has found itself in, and this has been publicly confirmed by Team Unity itself. I am not saying this, I didn't make it up. This is what they are saying. They don't trust each other, they don't want to continue, they want to go in another direction. It is quite unfortunate that we have found ourselves in this situation today, but it is what it is, and if there has to be a motion, let there be the motion. Go back to the polls. The people decide who they want to run the affairs of the country. I can tell you that many people are looking at Singers and Nevis right now. Many people. Some may want to make the argument that, oh, we're just talking about this to dry it out. Oh, absolutely not. Regional media houses are pounding this issue. And every single, most, I would say, not every single, but most regional media house, they're talking about it. And there is some international attention and international people, that is, looking at what is unfolding here in our political climate. Regardless of where you stand politically, you can agree that this is a mess. It's a mess. It's really, really unfortunate, and you can agree that it is a mess. And we would perhaps would have hoped that, we wouldn't have been in this situation just after 7 years, and that Team Unity would have been able to continue to manage and run the affairs of the country. But unfortunately, this is where we have found ourselves, and in a situation like this, it is perhaps best for the people to decide what should happen. What is the correct thing to do? What should happen in terms of, the members of parliament or the elected representatives of the National Assembly saying that they no longer support Dr. Harris as Prime Minister. Dr. Harris gave his speech yesterday, and he is of the view that we should not be, that is, political actors and parties, etc., should not be engaged in this at this particular point in time, as many of you are aware that we are actually in an official period of mourning for the late Ambassador Vance Emery. That is the view that the Prime Minister took then. But the real question is, how can one ignore all that is going on right now? It's hard to ignore. A comment on the live stream says it's either motion of no confidence or he take the bell from out his back pocket and ring it and let the chips fall where they may. So a motion of no confidence, which would lead to an election, or let him ring the bell, which would lead to an election. Now, based on the letter by the Honorable Sean K. Richards and the Honorable Mark Brantley, they are saying that should these demands be met by the Prime Minister, they are willing to allow the continuation of his leadership until December 31st, 2023, and at that time there would be a transition from Timothy Harris to Sean Richards as Prime Minister. That is when Timothy Harris would say, if he does, I'm resigning as Prime Minister, support Sean Richards, etc., etc., etc. Now, that where they're saying, well, if you address these issues, all is well. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe that, if the Prime Minister is to address these issues, all will be well. You guys heard the radio interviews, the town hall meetings, the voice notes, all. A lot really, really, really has been said. A lot of terrible things have been said. A lot of accusations have been made about corruption, about misappropriation, and all of these things. A lot has really been said, So let us say that yes, the Prime Minister is to say, okay, I'm going to review the demands that you have made, and I'm going to consider, etc., etc., etc. Are we now in St. Kitts and Nevis to believe that all will be well until the next general election, which is constitutionally due in 2025? Should these demands be met? Because I think in the back of our minds, while we see on the face that, okay, the Prime Minister was able to respond to the demands, in the back of our minds, we're like, well, wait there. The man had a serious session about who this and who that and who ain't this and who that, and who. Serious accusations. So, that is why there is a strong public opinion that the only thing that can fix this chaos is a general election. Let the people decide. Let them say who they want. And whoever they want, you go with it. Let them decide. Guys, it is 12 o'clock. I'm going to have to break for the headline news. Stick and stay. We have some interesting news to share with you. And I'll come back thereafter to continue Voices right here on WinFM 98.9. I've been your host for the first hour, Devon Cornelius. Of course, it's always a pleasure to be here and interact with you, the good people and good listeners, good people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and the good listeners of WinFM 98.9. We'll take this break, and when we come back, we'll head back into the response by Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris, his response to his Team Unity colleagues. If you have any questions that you want to send, any contributions that you would want to make, you can call us at 466-0989 or 762-0989. When we come back, we have our WhatsApp number, which is 662-2204, 662-2204, where you can send your questions. I'll take a look at them, review them, and your contribution to this program. Of course, we're live right here on Facebook on Win Media, SKN. We're live on YouTube as well. You can check out our Twitter and Instagram accounts. Stick and stay, guys. We will be right back. This has been the first edition of Voices, only on WinFM 98.9.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and National Bank.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that National Bank offers very favorable terms and low interest rate to switch your home mortgage? Our in-house legal department will process your mortgage in a jiffy and free of cost. Switch your home mortgage now and get a peace of mind knowing that we are here for you. National Bank, always here.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Dealing well with a low reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs,
469-5303. Dealey Walwyn, people you can trust.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
With the WIN Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
I am Devon Cornelius.
Making the headlines.
Governor General to seek legal advice regarding elected representatives' letter revoking support for Prime Minister. Richards says Harris responsible for Team Unity's demise.
Medical Chief of Staff clears the air on death of Swanee Huggins. Grenada to back Jamaica's Minister of Foreign Affairs for Commonwealth Secretary General position. Internationally, Russia's war in Ukraine has been described as a horror story of violations against civilians in which respect for international law has been tossed aside by the United Nations Human Rights Office. Now, the details.
Governor General His Excellency Sir S.W. Tapley Seaton has responded to the majority of elected representatives in the National Assembly who have written to him, indicating that they no longer support Dr. Harris as Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. The letter, with the Governor General's signature affixed, confirmed receipt of the correspondence from 6 of the 9 elected representatives who are also cabinet ministers, excluding PAM's the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, who is off-island receiving medical attention. The Governor General's response, dated April 21, 2022, states, quote, "I wish to acknowledge receipt of a communication addressed to me. It bears no date. I note the request contained therein. Consistent with my duty to seek formal legal advice, I wish to advise that I will do so and revert to you at the earliest." End quote. The response from the Governor General is addressed to the Honorable Sean K. Richards, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, the Honorable Lindsey Grant, the Honorable Jonell Powell, the Honorable Mark Brantley, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, and the Honorable Alexis Jeffers. When media spoke with Premier Brantley, who confirmed receipt of the Governor General's response, which was sent to him by Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Sean Richards. There is, however, now a debate as to when and how the Governor General can remove a sitting Prime Minister. The expressed constitutional mechanism to remove a sitting Prime Minister in Section 52, subsection 6, is initiated with the passing of a resolution of no confidence in the government by the National Assembly. If the resolution is passed by a simple majority of elected representatives, the Governor General has to remove the Prime Minister if he doesn't sooner resign or request the dissolution of Parliament, the latter forcing general elections. Premier Brantley, in a radio interview on April 21, confirmed that the elected representatives who wrote to the Governor-General engaged legal counsel who advised that there is a continuing duty on the Governor-General to ensure that a Prime Minister maintains their majority support. Therefore, Brantley put forward that the Governor-General, armed with written communication that the majority of elected representatives now support Honorable Sean Richards to be Prime Minister, can constitutionally appoint the current Deputy Prime Minister as Prime Minister without the need for a motion of no confidence being filed. Dr. Harris's resignation, the solution of the National Assembly, or elections. However, as the Constitution does not expressly provide the power to remove a sitting Prime Minister simply by way of notice from a majority of elected representatives, should the Governor-General order the Prime Minister to step down and or appoint Honorable Sean Richards as Prime Minister, injunctions and challenges could be filed in the High Court. There has been no indication whether the majority of elected representatives also intend to file a motion of no confidence or how long the Governor-General will need to take legal advice. Deputy Prime Minister the Honourable Sean Richards has levelled blame at the feet of Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris for Team Unity's current state of disarray.
After so many efforts by the leaders of PAM and CCM to discuss and find resolutions with the leader of PLP, Dr. Harris, it is with much regret that I have to inform the people of St. Kitts and Nevis that all efforts have failed. They have failed because of one man, Dr. Timothy Harris.
While addressing the nation on Thursday, April 21st, Richards accused Harris of undermining his colleagues in the Team Unity Coalition and that he stunted their performance as ministers of government.
One man who has presided over a systematic campaign of undermining his own ministers of government and undermining the operations of the ministries overseen by the cabinet members who happen to represent the CCM and PAM.
Comments by the People's Action Movement and the Concerned Citizens Movement suggest political turbulence in the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. But Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris, in an address on Thursday, said the country remains stable and every effort will be made to maintain peace.
Medical Chief of Staff at the Joseph and France General Hospital responds to claims that improper response from the Emergency Medical Technician Services led to the death of Swanee Huggins of Stapleton, the young man that passed just before the start of the Easter holiday weekend. Dr. Wilkinson chronologically laid out the events of the EMT response, starting with the call.
The call was made to the dispatcher, and that call lasted a total of 60 seconds, during which time vital information was obtained about the patient's name, age, where the person was, and the status of the person in question. It took the ambulance 3 minutes to get to the scene once they were dispatched, and the dispatch was made immediately.
Depending on the gravity of the situation, emergency aid would be administered on the scene before moving the patient to the nearest hospital.
The EMT technicians, they have to make an assessment of the patient. They make a quick assessment, and there are some emergencies that would have to be dealt with immediately. One always has to, for example, make sure that the airway is clear, secure the airway, make sure that the person is breathing, and make sure that they have adequate circulation. If the person is in cardiac arrest, one may have to institute CPR. And so there are a number of reasons why an ambulance would not leave a scene immediately.
Said Wilkinson in explaining why the ambulance did not immediately leave the scene to take the patient to the hospital. The death of Huggins then led to several claims, including a lack of oxygen and professionalism on the part of the EMTs. The JNF hospital has already refuted claims of a lack of oxygen at their institution, which was making the rounds as the cause of death for the 31-year-old male and 1-year-old female in St. Kitts. Dr. Wilkinson assured the public that before the ambulances are dispatched, they are adequately equipped, including the one dispatched to Huggins.
Anytime there's an ambulance that is on hold waiting to be dispatched, there are procedures in place to make sure that it is properly equipped. And I can tell you that this ambulance was properly equipped, and there was oxygen on the ambulance, and there was oxygen that was used at the time when they got to the scene.
The claims made of a lack of oxygen at the hospital took hold of social media after the death of Huggins and were emphasized after an additional claim of a 1-year-old dying of a lack of oxygen at the hospital, which has since been refuted. The medical chief of staff suggested that the impact of losing a loved one impeded the judgment of their family.
I want to give the persons involved time to grieve, but what I can say is that sometimes when persons are under stress, especially if you have just lost a loved one, you might interpret things differently.
The ministry informed that the circumstances of both deaths were to be further reviewed and the families were notified. Since then, an autopsy was done on the young man and the findings were communicated to the family by officials at the hospital. In regional news, Grenada to back Jamaica's Minister of Foreign Affairs for Commonwealth Secretary General position. Carib Update has more.
Grenada has indicated that it will back Jamaica's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kamina Johnson-Smith, formally to become the next Secretary General of the Commonwealth in London. Johnson-Smith is in London this week meeting with Commonwealth diplomats. There are increasing whispers in diplomatic circles that Jamaica has already been endorsed by several of the 54 countries in Africa, Asia, the Americas, Europe, and the Pacific. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Trinidad and Tobago is believed to have given their commitment to supporting the Jamaican nomination. Grenada appears to be the first to go on record as stating its position. A decision on the appointment of a Secretary General is to be made during the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kigali, Rwanda from June 20 to 25. On April 1, the office of the Jamaica Prime Minister stunned many in the region when it announced that Johnson-Smith would be nominated to replace Baroness Patricia Scotland as head of the Commonwealth Secretariat. As the shockwaves reverberated around the Caribbean community, CARICOM, Prime Minister Andrew Holness doubled down and told the House of Representatives that towards the latter part of the initial term of the current Secretary General, several countries, including Jamaica, were approached regarding the possibility of nominating a candidate for the post. Following the announcement from Kingston, the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, described it as a monumental error, saying he was hoping that the matter would be resolved amicably. There were further indications that other CARICOM leaders had initially decided to back Scotland and found themselves in a quandary with the nomination of Johnson-Smith.
We now bring you these international reports.
The UN Human Rights Office has issued a damning statement describing the war in Ukraine as a horror story of violations against civilians in which respect for international law has been tossed aside. The UN monitoring mission in Ukraine has documented the unlawful killing of 50 civilians in Bucha, northwest of Kyiv, a town shattered in the fight for control of Ukraine's capital. The UN said such killings amount to war crimes, and this comes as Ukrainian officials accuse Russian forces of burying the bodies of hundreds of civilians in mass graves outside the besieged city of Mariupol. A picture taken by the US satellite company Maxar on the 19th of March. It shows a cemetery in the village of Manhush just outside Mariupol. Images taken 2 weeks later on the 3rd of April appear to show freshly dug trenches in Manhush. Now, the mayor of Mariupol says the photos show Russia was trying to conceal the number of people it had killed. Well, I'm joined now by Anna Foster, our correspondent in Kyiv. Anna, this looks like powerful evidence presented by the UN today.
That's right. They say that they've documented the killings of 50 civilians in Bucha. I should just say, by the way, if you can hear the sound of sirens in the background here in Kyiv, that is still a regular feature of life here in Ukraine at the moment. So 50 civilians, the UN say they have documented their killings, and they express in their report a litany of indiscriminate killings, sexual violence and torture. It's worth saying as well, in Bucha, 50 deaths are a small number, it would seem, of the losses in that town. I have been there on various occasions now, and there is that mass grave next to the beautiful St Andrew's Church in the middle of the town of Bucha, and estimates were that there were 300 to 400 people buried in that mass grave alone. We've seen, of course, the pictures of bodies on the streets, bodies which appeared to have been shot in the back, people with hands bound behind their backs. The UN say that this is clear evidence of war crimes. I spoke actually to the chief prosecutor at the International Criminal Court here in Kyiv the week before last. He said that they were gathering all of this evidence, that it was important for the legal process to take its course to try and produce some sort of meaningful result. But certainly from the UN Human Rights Office today, they say that not just in Bucha, in towns around Kyiv and across the country, they now have this clear evidence of war crimes having been committed by Russian forces.
Anna, as ever, I'm mindful of those sirens behind you, and of course it goes without saying, do leave if you feel you need to. But if you're okay to keep talking, just tell me what you're hearing about the Russian offensive in the east. Obviously their effort to take the whole of the Donbass. How does it appear to be developing right now?
Well, it's interesting. We hear sort of slightly conflicting reports about how that is going at the moment. Russia says that it's taking territory. We heard overnight potentially more than 40 villages, but it's hard to know whether they have been captured and occupied or whether that's just an assessment of where the fighting is actually taking place. So you would describe those perhaps as contested areas rather than areas which had been taken. But certainly that whole front line, nearly 500 kilometers long, stretching from Kharkiv up in the northeast, down through the Donbass, through Luhansk and Donetsk, down towards Mariupol, is really where the focus of this battle is now. We know that Ukraine have been donated fresh weapons, including that announcement from the US yesterday of what was due to be coming in. President Zelensky has made the point repeatedly that while he is very grateful for those weapons donations, time is of the essence. They need to be brought here and they need to be moved towards the east where the fighting is ongoing. We hear reports of near constant shelling in those areas, and Ukraine say if they're going to push back, if they're going to hold off the Russian advance, they need those heavy and sophisticated weapons, and they need them at the front line as soon as they can manage.
In France, it's the final stage of campaigning in the race for the presidency, which will be settled on Sunday. Millions of voters will choose between the incumbent Emmanuel Macron and his rival Marine Le Pen. The two candidates faced each other on Wednesday night in a nationwide televised debate, after which many French voters are still said to be undecided. Our Europe editor Katia Adler has been taking the temperature for this weekend.
Could this be France's next president? Marine Le Pen, patriotic woman of the people visiting France's forgotten villages, or far-right nationalist hiding behind a carefully reinvented, softer image? How radical are you? I asked.
I'm not radical, sorry. I'm running for president to establish a government of the people, for the people, giving back power to the people.
But these people, and plenty of others in France, remain unconvinced. So close to the elections, emotions are running high.
It's always like this on campaign trail Le Pen. There's protectors, press and protesters wherever you look.
Marine Le Pen remains the outsider in this election, but her popularity has grown. She's focused on voters' number one concern, the spiralling cost of food and fuel here.
Marine Le Pen goes to markets to meet working people like us. She's down to earth. We've always liked her.
Marine Le Pen, even if she tries to distance herself from the extreme right, that's her background, that's her party. I'm voting Macron to keep Le Pen out.
In fact, both presidential candidates have a reputation problem. EU-obsessed and elitist is how Emmanuel Macron's critics describe him. So, at this campaign event in Marseille, he ditched the designer jacket and appealed across party lines to vote for him on Sunday.
Le 24 avril.
The 24th of April is a referendum for or against the environment, for or against young people. This election can be the start of a new French and European era of great hopes and ambition.
Celle de l'ambition.
Brussels and Washington are watching all this extremely carefully, especially with the raging Russia-Ukraine crisis. France has the EU's biggest military, its second largest economy. Macron wants to use that to boost EU, NATO and transatlantic relations. Le Pen is Euro and US skeptic with traditionally close ties to Moscow.
Who becomes France's next president is as important abroad as it is at home, for a number of reasons.
I'm really well, Monsieur le Maire.
Marine Le Pen's program would directly lead to a total collapse of the French economy, which would hurt the other European countries, also a very important economic partner, which is the UK.
Marine Le Pen defends her economic plans, but France's next president, she or he, won't be able to claim the heart of all French people. This is a divided country.
You were listening to the WinFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were:
Governor General to seek legal advice regarding elected representatives' letter revoking support for Prime Minister. Richards says Harris responsible for Team Unity's demise.
Medical Chief of Staff clears the air on death of Swanee Huggins. Grenada to back Jamaica's Minister of Foreign Affairs for Commonwealth Secretary General position. Internationally, Russia's war in Ukraine has been described as a horror story of violations against civilians in which respect for international law has been tossed aside by the United Nations Human Rights Office. Thank you for listening.
That was the WinFM Headline News. The Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and National Bank.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tilly Walwyn, a local reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465 461 or 469-5303. Delia Walwyn, people you can trust.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your national bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Found the Sound 98.9 FM.
Horsford's Value Mart IGA Value Club Blue Tax Special.
Running April 21st to
May 4th. Pearl pancake mixes, $10.99. Langer's cranberry juices, $9.99. Nabisco Oreo cookies are just $19.99. Tropicana punches, $7.99. Lactate milk, $17.99. And Tony's pizzas are $15.49. And now your very low weekly
value deals. Multi-meal cereals, $12.99. Pillsbury cake mixes, $5.99. Suave Essential shampoo and conditioner, $7.99. Pepperidge Farm cakes, $14.99. Dial soap, $9.99. Extra liquid detergent, $12.99. Shop smart, shop Value Mart. Joan in español.
Sea listo y haga sus compras aquí a Value Mart.
Welcome back to Voices here on WinFM 98.9. It is 12:35, and I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. I have here with me the letter by Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris that was penned to his Team Unity colleagues, the Honourable Mark Brantley, Premier of Nevis, and the Honourable Sean K. Richards, Deputy Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, I'm going to try to go through and share with you the responses by the Prime Minister. I have to say that it is really long. It's really hard for me to summarize all of this because I don't want to leave out any information or any of what the Prime Minister gave in his response to the 18 demands or 18 questions, statements, whatever, that were posed to him. Now, in response to so we're continuing. I left off from the part about comprehensive overview of the true financial picture of the government with monthly reports by the Financial Secretary. So I already gave that information to you. Now, with regards to the management of the CBI program should be restructured and be administered through the Ministry of Finance with quarterly reports of revenue earned, the number of applications, and the number of persons granted citizenship. And of course, I have to put in here that this is something that many people have been calling for. The response from the Prime Minister. He says, the work of the Citizenship by Investment Unit has relevance for two major operational areas of the government: finance, which is fiscal agency, and national security passport processing. The mechanism for improving operations should be carefully studied in order to sustain smooth operations of the CBI program. I am disheartened that you both seem to forget the state of the CBI program when we first came to government as the Team Unity administration in 2015. The CBA program has now become an outstanding success story for St. Kitts and Nevis. The results are published every year in the annual estimates tabled in the Parliament. These reports do not make a case for the restructuring of the program. You will recall that after serious mismanagement of the program, and he's alleging that that was done by Denzel Douglas with his administration, when they took the place of birth field out of our passports. Okay. After numerous warnings, the U.S. Treasury Department issued a FinCEN advisory against St. Kitts and Nevis. This was followed by the withdrawal of visa-free access by Kittitians and Nevisians to Canada by the Canadian government. This restructuring involved a number of marketing strategies that have catapulted the program to be the most sought-after program under CBI countries. The CBI now has attained outstanding success, which continues to be lauded by reputable international experts. As a mandate for managing the CBI, the unit was assigned to the Office of the Prime Minister, with clear protocols for being at arm's length from the Minister. This was often reconfirmed by visits from our international partners and by having a head of the unit with no political alliances. Members of the IMF and other international partners have commented on the sound governance of the program and our adherence to strict due diligence, protocols, and decision-making. Through this approach and a marketing effort that emphasized the integrity of the program, the SKN-CBI was able to achieve platinum brand status. It is important to note that all strategies within the CBI were approved by submission to Cabinet. This ranged from the introduction of the Hurricane Fund, the changes in government fees, the addition of siblings, the splitting of shares to 200,000, the limited time offers, the introduction of escrow bill and payout schedules, the regulation of escrow agents, the introduction of the alternative investment option, and the inclusion of projects under this option. In addition, every real estate project approved by this government was submitted through SKIPA, I think that is the St. Kitts Investment Promotion Agency, and reviewed accordingly. Finally, all revenues from the program go into the consolidated fund and are subject to the scrutiny of the Director of Audit. It says, now the other demand, there needs to be a clear policy that determines how social assistance is to be distributed to citizens and residents. This is the Prime Minister's response. After we took office in 2015, every cabinet member was asked to provide updates on the state in which they found each ministry and portfolio that he or she had been assigned. In the case of Minister Hamilton and Senator Phipps, a report was presented on the status of the National Household Registry that had just been started prior to the change of government. Ministers Hamilton and Phipps indicated that the investment to the government in this National Social Services and Assistance Repository was priced at approximately $570,000 EC dollars, based on A, the most recent country poverty assessment by the Caribbean Development Bank, and B, the World Bank, UNICEF and UN Women-sponsored review in 2009 of the social safety net programs already in existence. It goes on to say that the South American consulting firm, Ayala Consulting, undertook the national assignment for the development of the NHR. The NHR then, still today, is being used as national repository for all of the government's social safety net programs. It also provides for analytical economic means testing to ascertain eligibility for social assistance. It also has inbuilt a monitoring and evaluation mechanism to track changes in the socioeconomic status of the beneficiaries so that their assistance scheme can be either amended, suspended, or ended, as the case may be. An MOU was signed between the Ministry of Social Services and other ministries with social safety net programs, example, the Ministry of Education, so that these ministries can have access to the system to enter their data. As if that was not enough, our confirmed cabinet minutes of Monday, November 13, 2017, indicate that a delegation from Social Services made a presentation to Cabinet on the workings and status of NHR. The delegation was comprised by PS General Louis Tefare and Mrs. Celia Christopher. Some 4 handouts were provided to each Cabinet member regarding the presentations that were made. These were as follows. 1, an 18-slide PowerPoint presentation on the St. Kitts and Nevis National Household Registry. 2, a 2-page Word document that outlined the data fields that would be collected from all applicants of the Government of Social Assistance, inclusive of demographics, income, gender, work, history, the list goes on, and a single-page screenshot of the service provider of the intended beneficiaries, which is meant to incorporate the support provided by state agencies. And 4, a 6-page point-out of the household assessment that identifies linkages and referrals that may be necessary for applicants regarding their domestic situation, job prospects, counseling needs, community-based health care outreach, access to public utilities. Our cabinet records indicate that you both present at the time that you were both present at the time of the presentation. Given the foregoing explanation, I am at a loss to understand why we would need to reinvent the wheel and waste valuable government resources to develop yet another clear policy that determines how the social assistance is to be distributed. The STEP program. The Prime Minister said you both appear to be unaware of the decisions of the Cabinet on the STEP program. While the Deputy Prime Minister has been absent from Cabinet for a long time, the The Minister of Foreign Affairs must be aware that as of May 1st, 2022, the first batch of STEP workers who are employed by government would become government auxiliary workers. Once the full process of regularization of the government-assigned STEP workers is completed, all such workers would become permanent government employees attached to their respective ministries. In light of the foregoing, there is no justification for the transfer of the STEP program to the Ministry of Labour. His response to about the PAP program. And after that, I'll open the phone lines and we will take your calls at 466-0989 or 762-0989. The Prime Minister said in answering this demand that the poverty alleviation program be placed completely under the Ministry of Social Development, where the budget head resides, it is necessary that context be provided in response. I have a caller, so we'll take this first call for the program today. Caller, good afternoon. You are the first caller.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cornelius. How are you?
I am great. What about you?
Boy, our country is in a big international mess. Politician using politician, all them in the same party, but nobody taking the time out and worrying about poor people. Sean was on a program this morning, you know. For the past 7 years when people balling up, me the see man so much program. I went to buy a sandwich this morning, but it was normally be $10 for $15. None of them come address what can happen to poor people. That is why every single one of them need to get to hell out of government. We want one thing from these guys, fresh election. So the trick what they're trying to do about the right thing to governor. For governor who put Chan as leader. I can't take another 3 years. A PAM. Because just like how they said another 3 years, a PAM is another 3 years of Simmons and Michael Powell and them. And the Herberts, I can't take another 3 years of these people. They need to go. They have deceived the country. They have lied to the country for the past 7 years for their own personal gain. It was nothing about the country. And why I said this, Mr. Cornelius, if it was principle, let's look at what happened to Sam Kondo. We're not talking about it. Sam Kondo was the glue to these guys. The glue. Because Vance, Mark, and all of them convinced people that Douglas was doing some bad, and Douglas was this, and Douglas was that. Sam did the moral thing and he left. He left on principle. So when Timothy Harris started to kick up Sam just after they get in, why none of them showing the voice? Where was Mark? Where was Sean? Where was Lindsay? Where was our national hero Simmons? Not one of them said nothing, Mr. Cornelius. Because it was about them. We don't want to mash it up. Because we don't want to look bad. We don't want to give Labour no mileage. So they sit down and allow that behavior to go on. But let's fast forward, Mr. Cornelius.
All right, go ahead.
We had a... Huh?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, we had a COVID situation for the past 2 years. Look at the disrespect. What was meted out on the citizens of this country. You were listening to Patchy's show. Everybody listened to Patchy, so we was disrespecting the people in this country. Did Mark Batley say anything? Did Sean Richards say anything? Did Lindsey Grant say anything? All of them stay silent. But now, Mark Batley is saying that Patches is on a radio station using them and it's wrong. So it's only when you affect them, it becomes wrong. Listen to Lindsay. That man on the radio show. That man You know we call him, you know, that man and all of them in cabinet. All of them balls. Sean don't say, oh, my name was in the police report. And I ain't going to cabinet to do the country business. We call my name in the police report. But I must make noise about the government writing a letter to TDC to say I'm a high risk. But there's no evidence. But Sean was at the function, he said. But there's no evidence that I do anything on the airport.
All right, we'll call her. We want to take some.
Mr. Cornelius. Look at where we are today.
We're going to take some more calls, okay? So we're not going to have to wrap up this one with you.
Mr. Cornelius.
Yes.
These politicians must understand they're serving the people, not themselves. Look at what happened to Vance. Now he passed, you're telling us he passed. They need to stop disrespect us. I'll call back again.
All right, thank you, caller, so much for your contribution to this program. We are still taking your calls here on Voices on WinFM 98.9. It is 12:51. Today is Friday, April 22nd, 2022. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. I have here with me the letters that were written by Sean Richards, Mark Brantley, and I have here the letter from Dr. Timothy Harris with his response. Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, man. Good afternoon. How are you, man?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, man. We just keep watching this mess, man. I'm wondering when we're going to find the solution. You know, it's very interesting to see what's playing out in St. Kitts and Nevis right now. And I believe, that these guys, if they can't get this thing, okay, in my opinion, this thing might not be fixable. It might not be fixable because, these guys, they got too much egos, and the egos is getting in their way. You know what I'm saying? For me, looking in from outside, I'm formulating my own ideas and my own opinions, but I listened to Sean this morning, and he sounds very genuine, bro. I listened to him this morning, and he sounds very genuine. A lot of people, they have jumped on the Prime Minister's bandwagon, and if this man had some bad habits, his bad habits is surfacing again. And, a lot of people, they don't like how Sean spoke and came out about this, and a lot of people, they don't like the fact that Mark is kicking up and trying to get that fair share for Nevis. But the response from the Prime Minister doesn't seem to appear like he addresses any of these two guys' concerns. And the people have to look at this real closely because the Prime Minister, bro, he's not living up into what he promised and what he and his word. He gave his word about certain things, and now his trust is being broken, and that's what these other two guys got going for themselves.
All right.
Sean Richards this morning, he said that very clearly, that trust is broken. And once that trust is broken, it's very hard to mend that, bro. You know what I'm saying? And real quickly before you go, to me, I felt like, the people should decide on who they want to be Prime Minister next. And the only way to get that done is to file that motion of no confidence. And I feel like those guys, they need to file that motion now. Because if they don't file it now, bro, Timothy is gaining momentum, and all he's looking for is to buy time to put his full slate together.
All right, well, caller, thank you so much.
Man.
Thank you so much for your contribution to this program. Let's take this other call. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. Please call us back at 466-0989 or 762-0989. You're listening to Voices on 1FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hello, good afternoon. Oh, what a walk, the gear, the whole 9 yard. You never believe I come to do this, Mr. Cornelius. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
You had a good long holidays. Last week you get some good long weekend rest. Yes, as the gentleman there was saying, from the stage, it's true. Because how he do buying time all the time. Because people calling, oh, they're greedy. What is the greedy? They're not greedy for nothing. If something starts since 4 or 5 weeks ago, why you couldn't mend it by now? But you've been fully from the time they finished with the convention. Oh, Baba, sick. It wasn't just a trick. Everybody got a trick, you know. As well as a monkey, you got a trick in them. You have to go up and do a monkey strip and say, you coop and pull away something when it's important to you and run. And that was like it was happening to us. It is not so they could have settled it and people calling last night to you, Mr. Kanye, and bashing the people them. Oh, Mantley, oh, Brantley, one, this and Sean, our power, our respect. They had time. Just like sometimes you give the time to men up something by government, by the court, under somebody, and you have some money for somebody, and it's a man, and I give up to next month, man. By the time I think you should find the money. And you know, you got a brief time. And instead they do it, but the one they come afterward and fight you. Because when they exactly come now, yourself, man, where they say, touch it now, this the 20-something. So let me go see what happened. You don't expect that to when you approach them in the morning, they come approach with violence, which you know had that in your head. Sometimes they catch you off guard and all. And even they must have a monkey check and make excuses. And they have the other show. Oh, this and that. That show nonsense. It's a respect for the dead. Where they get to any option to hear for. I don't like this place, you know. Me know when I'm going to wake up, you know. I don't care what they put in. They could put in an answer and all. I just respect them when I say them, and that's all. Because I don't like that. Ain't no power, no thing. But when you lend me something, you tell me, Mr. Bernice, right? How long you want it for? Give me a day. When you look up to Monday, you ain't get it back. When Monday come a day? And I don't know, Miss Bell, I will not go listen to radio more later thing against sense. Because I hear some people talking so ignorant of him, some man don't Irish song and go, a power, this a power. The man feels so good when he hear them and says, look at the man laughing in the heart after us. He laughing away. Because they just say these people, they got people do tape the program, they thing and give to them and they laughing. No thing. The people them put it out to all the o'clock. That could have meant long time. Mr. Amory, they all respect to Mr. Amory. They hear that the dead boy with the dead him, that's a respect. And be thing. We only what 10 days for. I just want to know, I asked him, I ain't getting the right answer, know what time Mr. Bratcher did, how long did he take? Because I wasn't here. I was away. I remember when they said that, the time he died. I remember the year. They must stop it and stop pressure people. See, I don't see. That will make I don't go down, no matter go parade on nobody but me. I mean, go some me a thing. Because nobody, you know, you're trying to represent. You know, really want to know, me age, me not represent. But if I say somebody younger, me do it for. And then I say, oh, this, oh, that, let me play a stone bush for you. And that ain't thing. I won't know how to us, but the money, I see money coming, and that's what fooling and that's us. But we're going to ball, you know. We're going to ball, you know, because all they ain't seen on the other side, you know. Some people seeing the wrong side. You see the big shot, them don't come out and say nothing. They let it pull go to rah, because they don't see the side. And the day when they don't want to go to work, they just stay in the place. And next morning they wake up and say, oh, Mr. PM, I think I see people land cross such and such a road. I would like to get it. It's too funny and stupid. They must be done with it. It ain't organized with the people. Them not do overruling nothing. And who ever got the O, I do all what they in the power to with the O.
All right, caller, thank you so much for your contribution to... Thank you so much for your contribution to this program. We want to take some more calls. Please call us back at 7466-0989 or 762-0989. We are taking your calls here on WinFM 98.9. Let's take this other call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Cornelius. Mr. Cornelius, you listening? You hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly. Go ahead.
I want to tell Bonus, she just made a statement there I do not like, but let the dead bury the dead. The man was...
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Man was somebody that everybody look up to, right? And if the Governor General and the Prime Minister making decision how to go about doing it for the gentleman, let us give the gentleman his 10 days mourning. Don't talk about let it dead, bury the dead. That's an insult to the family. And I like how you did it this morning, like reading out the pages them from the two gentlemen to the Prime Minister, and the 18 pages from the Prime Minister. We go understand exactly what the Prime Minister was trying to explain to them, and they're not listening. All of our concern is about he should step down and let Sean be the next Prime Minister.
All right.
That it should, if people have to listen to how you read from what the Prime Minister says, they'll understand it is a fighting going on for since 2020, even before that, between gentlemen and...
It appears as if it happened started before.
And I wouldn't... And number one again, the Governor General, he's not somebody to play with. But I said that, he's a man after law. He's not a lawyer. He was a lawyer, and then he was Attorney General under the PAM administration for 15 years.
All right.
I know him very well. He have a QC. He have things that what some of us do not have. And he's an okay man. He help you, and then but just don't go and embarrass him at certain things.
All right.
He doesn't stand for stupidness.
All right. Thank you, caller, so much.
Brantley and Sean doing, they are out of order and out of place because they are insulting the nation. They're supposed to come back to us and let us know, well, what is the situation, what step they're going to take, or whatever. Don't talk about beginning 16 days, and if you don't answer, such and such time, and all kind of things. It was ridiculous when I hear Mr. Nat Brantley went on the radio station program. These things could have been cooled down. Everybody, because he was saying that they don't want unity to break up. They want us to come together. But they is the one who break up team unity, Sean and Nat Brantley. But some people don't want to come out and say so. They are the one who break it up.
All right, well, caller, thank you so much for your contribution to... Thank you so much for your contribution. We have to take some more calls.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, you take care. All right, let's take this short break to give a shout out to our sponsors. And when we come back, we will take some more calls right here on Voices on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Stick and stay. We will be right back.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Supermarket shoppers understand that convenience matters. At Hortsports Value Mart IGA, we know that price matters most. Ample parking and the widest variety matter. At Hortsports Value Mart IGA, we know that price matters most. Clean, spacious aisles and the highest level of customer service all matter. At Hortsports Value Mart IGA, price matters most. We've renewed our commitment to guarantee the lowest prices in the Federation. Why? Because we understand that in this tough economic environment, price matters most. Shop smart. Shop Value Mart, where price matters most. Farms Estate Nevis and Wellington Road, St. Kitts.
Price matters most.
Welcome back to Voices here on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. It is a beautiful day. Regardless of all of this mess, it's a beautiful day. I'm really happy to be here, happy to be alive, and happy to be interacting with you, the good people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course the listeners of WinFM 98.9. Now, I want to finish the response from the Prime Minister, guys. It's really long, but it is worth it. A lot of information, and encouraging you to, regardless of where you stand, to listen to the both sides. I've read and I've listened to what the Premier and the Deputy Prime Minister have said. I now want to listen and read what the Prime Minister has said. Now, in response to the PAP program, where they're saying the PAP program, which is budgeted under the Ministry of Social Development, that it should be under the Ministry of Sustainable Development, the Prime Minister said, and I'm quoting, "In answering this demand that the poverty alleviation program be placed completely under the Ministry of Social Development, where the budget head resides, it is necessary that context be provided in response. The PAP program was informed in considerable measure by the results of the most recent Caribbean Development Bank Country Poverty Assessment exercise that falls under the Ministry of Sustainable Development on the intended data gathering exercise." Okay, let me just back it up a little bit. Okay. Yes, that falls under the Ministry of Sustainable Development with support from the social services. Following a cabinet presentation in 2018 by former PS Beverly Harris of the Ministry of Sustainable Development on the intended data gathering exercise to set up the PAP program, it was determined, with Cabinet's approval, that the statistical unit in Sustainable Development would be the lead agency of this program until it was well established. This was so, given the shortage of the program. This was so, given the shortage qualified manpower at the Ministry of Social Services, whose staff size was and still is small. Nevertheless, it was also agreed that the Ministry of Social Services would assist the Ministry of Sustainable Development with the project build-out. Once the program had been fully developed and the kinks worked out, there would have been a data sharing arrangement between the Ministry of Social Services and the Ministry of Sustainable Development. The Ministry of Social Services has already shared its database with Sustainable Development in order to facilitate this process. This ongoing exercise was meant to ensure that there were no applications double dipping in terms of public assistance being provided by both ministries to the same applications. At the end of the review and assessment that is now virtually completed by Sustainable Development, it is the intention of the ministry to turn all applicant files over to social services for input in the same National Household Registry already discussed in exhaustive fashion at number 6 above. I wish to state empathetically that it was never meant for there to be a permanent administrative dichotomy in terms of the two ministries with responsibility for the PAP program. In other words, the PAP program will be completely managed by the Ministry of Social Services as was originally intended. Number 9. All members of Parliament should have equal access to lands, houses, PAP step to assist constituents. This is the Prime Minister's response. In our system of government, the system does not anticipate nor provide an equal allocation of land parcels or houses or social assistance measures for each member of Parliament for them to disburse same. Government programs have to be budgeted within the priorities set by the Cabinet and are managed by public servants who follow policy prescriptions made by the Cabinet. This system expects all reps of the people to assist their constituents in accessing government services. This can be done in a variety of ways. It may require providing access to application forms, visiting constituents, and informing them of the available services. Each elected representative gets a constituency allowance, which should be used to provide access, whether by establishing a constituency office or arranging for assistants to work on their behalf for the constituent to meet their elected rep and raise their concerns. A transparent process should not be politicized. Number 10. The Cabinet should be allowed to convene in the absence of the Prime Minister with the deputy acting as chairman or an assigned minister when both are absent. This is the Prime Minister's response. You both know very well that this is a non-issue for you, Deputy Prime Minister. Have on more than one occasion acted to chair cabinet meetings at my direction in my absence. I cannot understand how this can be proposed at this time that the Deputy Prime Minister should act as chairman of cabinet when he has stopped coming to cabinet and cannot very well chair cabinet in his own absence. Since he has stopped coming to cabinet, Minister Eugene Hamilton has chaired cabinet when I have had to be unavoidably absent. 11. Which speaks to all fake social media platforms that have been used to attack members of PAM and CCM and those designed to attack PLP. This is the Prime Minister's response. You seem to be under the misguided opinion that I have control over social media platforms, which could not be further from the truth. I neither use nor encourage my supporters to use these platforms to attack anyone. On the contrary, whenever it has been drawn to my attention that there are persons known to me who have been involved in irresponsible dissemination of information on social media, I have strongly discouraged behavior. I will continue to do so. I agree that every attempt must be used to tone down the rhetoric on social media. 12. It is our view that it is inappropriate for anyone representing the country as an ambassador to be hosting or engaged in a radio or media program. This is the Prime Minister's response. I wish to stress that any citizen, including an ambassador, is free to exercise his or her democratic right to speak to issues affecting him or her or his or her country. Free speech is an entitlement, and it does not come with responsibilities for content, accuracy, intent, etc. It is also ironic that both of you are not denied your individual rights to free speech, even as you both launch scathing attacks on the government of which you are a part of. We are all called to lead by example. Number 13. It says, therefore, any such ambassadors, including our current ambassador, should be recalled. This was the Prime Minister's response. Ambassadors, like other citizens who are accused of wrongdoing, should be afforded the right to defend themselves and to answer their accusers. It goes against the grain of natural justice, fair play, and due process if this is not done. 14. Asking the Prime Minister to cease attempts by PLP to establish footholds in constituencies. And I also spoke to this earlier, where the Prime Minister alluded to a address by Sean Richards where he was supporting the build-out of the PLP. But he said, I refer to you the preamble of the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis, which states that whereas the people of St. Kitts and Nevis believe in the concept of true democracy with free and fair elections, why should PLP be excluded from this? I cannot be free, it cannot be free or fair if my party cannot take part in elections like other parties. The PLP has always leveraged its resources to assist all parties in team unity. That has allowed us to win general elections on 2 occasions. Our growth is consistent with the urging of the Honorable Sean Richards at our 2018 convention. 15. In the spirit of good governance agenda and the recent parliamentary efforts of the team unity government to introduce term limits legislation, and in the spirit of the own recent public commitments at church service not to seek a 3rd term, they are asking the PM to make a statement to clear the air. This was the PM's response. How could you make the statement that you make an item number 18 below that, quote, if you are satisfied with what I say in my responses to you, we the undersigned Brantley and Richards would be willing to allow the continuation of your leadership until December 31st, 2023. Your statement flies in the face of the constitutional appointment to my office, which, as it stands, is for a second 5-year term up to June 2025. Number 16, which speaks to team unity agreement, asking the PM to say that he will not run in other constituencies. I basically gave that response earlier where he's saying that his party is allowed to build out. Moving to number 17, we're soon finished, and we'll take some more calls with the 15 minutes we have left. Urgent accounting of CBI proceeds from the period of the SIDF, until present day, and to allocate and pay to Nevis its agreed pro rata population share of the net proceeds of CBI, minus sums already paid to Nevis. This was the Prime Minister's response, and I'm quoting him. As I have stated in my letter to the Honorable Premier, the World Bank has already been contacted to do a comprehensive study of the review sharing arrangements between St. Kitts and Nevis. I am happy to restate that they have agreed to do so. Furthermore, as per the request of the Honorable Premier, the Ministry of Finance has already increased and remitted the monthly budgetary allocations to Nevis as per his request. Any revenue sharing arrangement between St. Kitts and Nevis must be subject to Section 110 of the Constitution. The SIDF was brought into being under the former Labour government in 2007, some 6 years of the formation of Team Unity. And the last response, asking the Prime Minister to, they're saying that should he, agree to the demands, they'll support him as Prime Minister up until 2023. This was the Prime Minister's response. The Constitution determines the manner in which I would demit office. I reject the notion that I should be subjected to a date established by you. It goes against the grain of the prerogative of the Prime Minister as established in the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis. This is the Prime Minister's conclusion. I remain fully committed to the unity concept, and no action I take or decision I make, even if it displeases one or both of you, will be intended to damage unity. I will not compromise by doing anything I think is unconstitutional, unlawful, or not in the best interest of the people of our beloved Federation just to stay in power. I do not seek to have elections. I do not seek to have elections before they are constitutionally due, because if it becomes necessary, I am willing to abide by and support the will of the people as demonstrated by the election results, whatever they may be. We should be guided by the thought that unity belongs to the people, not to their leaders, and if we desert their expectations, we should not be surprised if they remain with unity, even if their leaders do not. That was the Prime Minister's response, and attached is his signature, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, and this was PC'd to all members of the Federal Cabinet. We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll take your calls.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Bust a move. Door-busting savings happening now. Horsford's Automotive is busting loose. Huge door-busting discount on all 2020 Nissan Urban 16-seater buses. Bust loose with as much as $25,000 off on all 2020 Nissan Urban 16-seaters. Yes, up to $25,000 off on all 2020 Nissan Urban 16-seater buses. But that's not all. Down payment busted. Absolutely no down payment. Payment on bill of sale. Busted. No payment on bill of sale. Payment on servicing for 12 months. Busted. Free servicing for 1 year. Buy groceries on gas for up to 3 months. Your choice. Busted. Your choice of absolutely free groceries or gas for 3 months. Payment on registration and licensing, tinting and accessories. All busted. That means they're totally free. Horsford Automotive is busting loose with its Bus a Move sales event on all 2020 Nissan Urban 16-seater buses. Bus a Move and get your new 2020 Nissan Urban 16-seater today for as much as $25,000 off. Bus a Move now at Horsford Automotive. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
Welcome back to Voices here on WinFM 98.9. The phone lines are open. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Mr. Cornelius, why you just read there, really?
I read the Prime Minister's response.
Just like how Timothy Harris them had Douglas, well, tell Timothy that the man them said they don't want him. Stop put the people. Where was the people when Patches was going on like that bike? We forget. But them not tell people, Mr. Cornelius, all of them need to get out of government headquarters. The people was crying for the past years at the behavior of Patches. The last thing Patches was come and insult people over the COVID. Look how he goes to Aya Brown, Larry Bond, playing tape with me while about TDC and the foolishness. But I come telling people now because they're feeling the squeeze, what? We've been crying all the time, my brother. Then some people have been like, they destroy people's life. That's the facts, my king. I hear he talking about how Vance Ammey, no disrespect to Vance Ammey, my brother, but we got to be real and honest. Vance Ammey for national hero. So why Douglas can't be a national hero? Point something to me constructive Vance Ammey do for news people. But look at the same Vance Ammey because of Douglas. Body came straight to St. Kitts. Because British Airways wasn't coming here, he would have landed in Antigua, kept some other small plane to come here. But Douglas did nothing for 20 years. But because of Douglas' brilliance, British Airways could bring home Vance Ammey straight home. But he done nothing for this country. And you're telling me about you're going to give Vance Ammey another problem with it. But if Vance Ammey going to get national hero, what Douglas supposed to get? The same Douglas when the man just a while ago call you, telling you about respect. They forget that Douglas was coming in the park and the red carpet and they make him park outside. Lock up his driver the next day. Why these people think people forget these things?
All right, well, we're going to take some more calls because we only have about 10 minutes left.
Timothy, they must not do everything to please them. Because that's what all of them about right now. We want fresh election and all of them give the people a chance to vote for who they want to run the country. This trick we're part of trying to work on about putting back Sean Azido is not going to work. Because I'm going to hit the street. We're not accepting that, Sean. We're accepting that all the rules for maybe a couple of months. How are we going to work out? And we want fresh election. We don't want nothing else.
All
so
right.
Don't try that. We're waiting to see. All we want is fresh election. I need to know your place. Have a good day.
All right, caller, thank you so much for your contribution to this program. We have some comments on the live stream. It says a crisis caused by the poor leadership of CCM and PAM. The best thing to call election, let the people say who they want to lead their country. You heard what they say. If the PM agree with what they say, he will be the PM until 2023 and turn over the leadership to Sean. Hell no. Call the election. That was a comment on the live stream. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Devon. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
And are you giving God thanks? Watching and listening to people stressing up themselves. Well, I first begin by sending condolences to Kenrick Clifton. You ever heard the name before?
Yes, I have.
Yes. Have you ever met him?
No.
Remind me so much of Vance, you know? Very pleasant person.
Mm-hmm. But quickly, caller, because we want to take some more calls.
Yes. Now, the tone of the letter, they always say it isn't what you say, it's how you say it. That tone of the Prime Minister's letter would lead me to conclude that he's no longer interested in any further discussion, which is a bit sorrowful, you know, because I was hoping that they would get together and as big people work out differences. Now, some of the answers he gave were good, but the tone, I mean, even the one with the CBI and the one with the PAP, and the different ones, the tone could have been different. So it is a pity, you know, but we need to prepare our country, you know, because the devil want to take back over. As simple as that. Those of you know how to pray, because Where things start, they don't finish. And the enemy, the Bible says the devil come, John 10:10. The thief come to rob, kill, and destroy. And Jesus came that you might have life.
All
So
right.
just keep your calm, Devon, you hear?
All right.
So like me, you was not at the table, so you don't fight for a spoon. All right then.
All right, thank you, caller, so much for your contribution. We'll take just 2 more calls. You call us at 466-0989 or 762-0989. This is Voices here on WinFM 98.9. We say thank you guys so much for joining us on today's edition of Voices. Those of you on the Facebook live stream, those of you who have joined us on YouTube, and those of you who have joined us via our FM channel 98.9. Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You are on the air.
Mr. Devon, I'll be quick.
Yes.
There's a caller from Mountshire constantly call your radio program. I want to say to that caller, he does not live in Sinkit. He knows nothing about Sinkit. I am not going to sit down here and listen to him talk about Sean, Timothy, Mark Brantley, who should rule from who should rule the country. I'm fed up of these people. You have no input in the country, my brother. You live in Mountshire. I will defend whoever in charge of Sinkit. These foreigners keep doing the foolishness. The man does not live here. He has no input in the country. He's not paying no tax. But it's disrespect that my people who live overseas cannot come home to vote. But you could say, Mountshire, he needs to stop. He needs to know the place. Do not say nothing about Sean. Do not say nothing about Mark. And do not say nothing about Timothy. I keep telling you all the time, my brother. Keep out with politics, my brother. And I have a place out there. Have a good day.
All right, thank you, caller, so much for your contribution to this program. We'll still taking your calls here on WinFM 98.9. This is Voices. We are on the topic of the political chaos that St. Kitts and Nevis has found itself in with regards to what is happening inside the Team Unity. There is serious turbulence within that administration. And of course, this has been publicly confirmed by Team Unity partners themselves. Most of you will recall that years before, a lot was being said, but they have confirmed it. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah, good day, Mr. Cornelius, and good afternoon to your listeners. Greetings.
Yes.
I just want to clarify something there. The GG is the framer of the Constitution in 1983. So what legal advice do we need to take for a simple answer to give to the people to understand what is the motion taken on this ground of this political rabbling going on in St. Kitts and Nevis for power struggle?
All right.
So we need to really be cautious of what his statement taken to that letter what he was given to him. Y'all have a safe day, yeah?
All right, thank you so much. No, yeah, I saw that in the letter where he said that he will seek legal advice. My take, that is a delicate one in the sense that, yes, he was part of the team that framed the Constitution. Perhaps the GG is saying, well, this is a delicate one, and so instead of me just making a decision, let me go and ask other legal minds what they think I should do. Yes, I was the one who basically was part of the cooking up of the Constitution, but let me go and ask other legal minds what they think I should do. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You are on the air.
Good afternoon, Devon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Devon, any human being on this earth, declare themselves as 10 men in one, they got to be Satan. He has to be Satan. And we do not need no Satan to run this country. Thank you.
All right, caller, thank you so much. That is the end of the calls. Guys, we have about 2 minutes left before we wrap up today's edition of Voices. Let me say thank you so much for joining me on today's program. For those of you who joined late, I took the opportunity to share with the good listeners the letters that were... I don't know. It appears as if they were holding on to these letters with their life and then they just, out of nowhere, dropped out of the sky. But I have here the letter that was written by the Honorable Sean K. Richards as Deputy Prime Minister and leader of the People's Action Movement, and Mark Brantley, the Honorable Mark Brantley, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Premier of Nevis and leader of CCM. The joint letter, and they made 18 demands. The Prime Minister responded to every single last one of the demands, giving his take. Yes, these two documents, for those of you on the live stream, I have it right here, and you would see that they're dated. This one is dated from the joint letter is dated 16th April 2022, and of course you would see that it has the signature of the Honorable Mark Brantley and the Honorable Sean K. Richards. Then I have here the letter from Dr. Timothy Harris addressed to his colleagues. Hope you guys can see. For those of you on the live stream, that is April 20th. And of course, it has his signature right there. If you see, that is his signature right there. So, yes, this was just me. Yes, this was just me sharing with you, some more context, because a lot, while there is a general knowledge of what's happening in Team Unity, we were not aware of what the demands were. We saw on Facebook that demands were made to hand over this ministry or that ministry or whatever, but we did not know what the demands were. These letters have confirmed what the demands were. Thank God for these letters, so that we could, the people who ultimately would have to make the decision, thank God that these letters have been provided to us, and we can read them and scrutinize them and say what we want about these letters, whether you agree or you disagree. That is your opinion that you are entitled to. Join us tomorrow right here on WinFM 98.9 for another edition of Inside the News. I have been your host for today's edition of Voices, Devon Cornelius. It has been a pleasure. Really happy to be here. And let me say thank you to all of you who called, those of you who sent your contribution on the live stream, and generally thank you for your contribution to this program. But we are out of time. We have to go. You guys take care. Regardless of what is happening now, take care. Don't let this thing get to you. But I can say that this has a lot of people very, very nervous, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. What's going on right now, and again, regardless of where you stand politically, you have to agree that it does not look good. It looks terrible. Right now, everybody is watching St. Kitts and Nevis, and they're like, well, what's going on down there? Jesus. Guys, you're out of time. You guys, take care, and I'll interact with you very soon.
Found the sound 98.9 FM.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Chaka, 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 a lot of people been using chaka chaka and don't know what chaka chaka means. Chaka chaka is when you're deorganized. You need to get de-chakalized. Within the word chakalization, chaka realize. Chaka word. Backing up is against the law. Chaka chaka chaka. We don't dance like that anymore. Move out of the way. If you can't do the chaka. Remember the dance of them got Shelly Belly. Everybody on the dance, make a remix the belly. Do the shaka belly, shaka belly. Everybody on the dance to the shaka belly. Do the shaka belly, shaka belly. Everybody on the dance to the shaka belly. They say, Jana fan them off, Jana fuck them off. Them a telephone, them a fax them off. Jana call on the rain for the girl them. But if I rain the man call on him, bless them. Jana gangster, you a one stop. Jana dance, you turn cookie monster.